Hi guys, welcome to the second episode of Know Your Kilimanjaro with Nishi. In the first episode, I spoke about my planning for this trek, arrival in Tanzania, and the first 2 days of the 8-day Lebosho route that I chose for my climb. We now start at day 3 of the trek. Early morning of day 3 is a little cloudy, but clears up as the day progresses. The journey to Shira 2 camp is not very difficult. The gradients are very gentle. Along the way, you see the Shira peak, that is the oldest of the 3 volcanic peaks. It takes about 3 hours to reach Shira 2 camp from Shira 1. As you get closer to Shira 2, you enter the 4th zone of the Kilimanjaro region. This is the alpine desert zone, which starts from 4,000 meters to about 5,000 meters. Here, you find a lot of everlasting plants and flowers, and even giant lobelia. But more spectacularly, you find the famous dendrosenecio trees, or as the locals call it, giant senecio trees. You also find lichens all over the volcanic rocks. We reach just after noon to find it extremely windy at the camp and the sun beating down hard. My team advises me against spending too much time outside as it may lead to headache and mountain sickness. The Shira 2 camp is set amidst a stunning landscape. After lunch and some rest, we hike up about 200 meters to acclimatize for the next day. It is a 45 minutes hike one way, and the views from here are simply majestic. Once I return, I explore the camp and find it extremely clean. Saidi tells me the reason. Each camp has 1 ranger, 2 caretakers, and 4 cleaning staff. The team stays for 10 days at a camp at a time, after which they go down to the base for 2 to 3 days of rest. After the rest period, each member is allotted duty at another camp. The rangers are allowed to carry a gun while at the camp to defend against wild beasts, although they are quite rare, or unwanted elements. Thus, every camp is extremely safe and secure. The caretakers and cleaning staff do a great job of keeping the camps clean. Additionally, for every tourist group, the porter carrying garbage bags has to weigh them upon entry to the camp with a sign-off from the caretaker. He or she has to weigh and sign off again at the time of exiting the camp. And the rule is that weight at the time of exit cannot be lower than the weight at the time of entry, a protocol that is called trash in, trash out. The effort is well assisted by the untiring scavenging of the white-necked ravens. They are larger than crows, but while they help in keeping the camp clean, they are also smart enough to open unattended bags and pull out food from them. Something to be careful about. As I sit on a rock soaking in the landscape, I notice porters hauling buckets of water to the camp from very far away place. Right from Shira 1 camp, water starts becoming scarce. Porters go really long distances to fetch water from streams. The problem gets even more acute as one moves to the higher camps. Early morning views of the alpine desert landscape at the Shira 2 camp is simply breathtaking, and so is the majestic Mount Kilimanjaro right in front of us. I put on my gear while breakfast is being made. Our destination for the day is the Barranco camp via the Lava Tower camp. Lava Tower is at an altitude of 4,600 meters that helps you acclimatize before you go down to the Barranco camp, which is at about 3,900 meters. The cook and the few support staff go to Lava Tower to prepare lunch for us, while the rest of the staff goes straight to Barranco camp to set up tents for the night. It's quite cloudy, which in a way is not too bad since the trail is a steady climb up. Not too steep, yet a steady climb up. Not far from Lava Tower is a point that serves as a junction between the Lemosho and the Machame route. From here to Lava Tower is about 45 minutes to an hour through Alpine Desert. Soon, we get the first views of Lava Tower. As you enter Lava Tower, you see a series of mess tents for groups that have come here just to acclimatize and have lunch while they are there. Of course, there are groups who have come here to camp for the night as well. After lunch at Lava Tower, we proceed on our trail to the Barranco camp. It starts with a steep descent and then continues downhill through the Alpine Desert zone. It's quite rocky, and one has to watch out for small stones, rocks and pebbles. One can easily lose balance and fall, something that happened to a lady in another group. I don't know whether she suffered a fracture, but if she did, she would have had to go back because the rules prohibit an injured climber from going further. As we get close to the Barranco camp, after almost a 7-hour trek, we are greeted by a garden of senecio trees. And where one finds senecio trees, water can't be too far away. There are waterfalls fed by the Arrow Glacier. The Barranco camp is quite busy, as there are climbers from the Lemosho, Machame and Umve routes. The Barranco camp is arguably the prettiest camp on the way because of the variety of flora and water bodies. Of course, the giant Barranco wall right in front of the camp adds to its aura. Given the fog in the evening, I decide to leave the exploration of the camp for the next morning. The clouds of the previous evening have all gone away, and one is greeted with majestic views of the famous Barranco wall. We need to cross the wall to be able to reach our next camp on this route, the Karanga camp. We find that many have already started their climb up the wall. While our team gets ready, I decide to explore this nature-blessed camp. I keep looking at the wall, and the almost vertical rise gives me the goosebumps. With all the encouragement from Saidi and the entire team, I set out for the challenge. Surprisingly, I don't find the climb too challenging, as the rocks along the trail offer enough friction and balance to ease the climb. And then comes the real challenge, to cross the kissing rock.
Hug and kiss.
Hug and kiss.
Yes.
Mm-mm. One more kiss.
Okay.
Nice rock.
I find my voice coming back after crossing the kissing rock. At the top of the Barranco wall, one gets grand views of the mountains and the way ahead to the Karanga camp. As we proceed ahead, we find an evacuation helicopter flying in to evacuate an injured climber. One can't but notice the availability of helicopter service despite the heavy clouds. Moving ahead, we come across another little garden of senecio trees, and further ahead, come to a viewpoint where one can see the Karanga camp from a distance. But to get there, one has to take a sharp descent to an intervening valley and then a climb up to the camp. I had mentioned earlier that water becomes scarce as we go up the mountain. The most poignant example is evident here in Karanga. Porters go down at least a couple of kilometers one way to fetch a bucket of water. And this they do not once but many times.
The water that is available here is sourced from a water body that is deep down there. Very, very far away. Imagine the distance, imagine how far it is from this camp. And porters, as you can see, take buckets with them to the water body, collect water and haul it here up to the camp.
This is because the water that they get not only serves the needs at the Karanga camp, but also the next one, the Barafu camp, that is the base camp for the summit. The Barafu camp has absolutely no water body close to it. While talking about the plight of porters, one can't but notice women porters lugging heavy loads up the mountain. Many of the porters, men and women, spend many years carrying heavy equipment and supplies up the mountain that leads to cervical problems in the later years. Unfortunately, not many of them have medical insurance for treatment. Maybe it is time that the Kilimanjaro authorities arranged for group medical insurance for the porters. At the Karanga camp, it is hard to find a flat or plain surface. Hence, it is important for climbers, especially amateurs like me, to be careful while coming out of the tent. Else, you may find yourself toppling over and rolling down after you come out of the tent. Interestingly, from the Karanga camp, one can see the Moshi town, especially after dark when the whole town is lit up. Our destination for the day is the Barafu camp, the base camp for people coming through the Lemosho, Machame and Umve routes. It's just about 3 hours away from the Karanga camp, and on the way I see some interesting lava formations. Hey, did I just see a crocodile on the mountain? As I mentioned, the base camp for Machame, Lemosho and Umve is the Barafu camp, which is on the south of the mountain. For those coming from Rongai and Marangu, the base camp is Kibo Hut. Close to Kibo Hut is School Hut, that is used by climbers using the northern circuit or Grand Traverse to summit the peak. The School Hut camp is the least used camp, other than of course the Arrow Glacier camp, as most use either the Barafu camp or the Kibo Hut camp. As I approach the Barafu camp, I find climbers in high spirits as they are just a climb away from the peak. I am asked to have lunch and sleep through the afternoon. After I wake up in the afternoon, my guide sits me down for a summit briefing.
Now, time for the summit briefing. So, and I always starting from the top, top, head to top.
Okay.
The briefing is split into two parts. One about the summit gear and the other about the summit route information. Saidi explains the summit gear from top to bottom. One needs a warm hat or cap, which should be covered by a hoodie to keep the head warm and prevent delusion that can happen at high altitudes. A balaclava to protect against the cold wind in the night and dust on our way back. In fact, one extra fleece needs to be packed in the bag just in case.
You may start with the thin gloves, and then later, maybe 2 or 3 hours later, if you may start feeling, oh, my hand's cold, you can just put that thicker gloves on top of them.
Okay.
2 thermal pants, a normal pant and a trek pant. Although I wore 2 thermals and a heavy trek pant with woolens on the inner side. And with all this, he says I'll be looking like a Michelin man.
You'll be looking like a Michelin.
Looks like that. I'm already short.
2 minute
So,
clothes.
yeah.
2 pair of socks or 1 thick woolen pair of socks. I should also be carrying essentials like lip balm, sunscreen, valuables, 3 liters of water. The water bottle should be placed upside down since water freezes from the top. I also had a thermally insulated bottle which I filled with warm water. The instruction is to just sip water from the bottle during the trek at night. One shouldn't drink too much in one go during the period. As regards the trek itself, there would be 3 of us. My guide Saidi, Musa, one of the porters, and I. Saidi very kindly offers to carry my backpack, and Musa would be carrying an oxygen cylinder in his bag. But if you thought that the oxygen cylinder was an aid to help a climber go up in case of discomfort, that's not the case. If one ever needs to use an oxygen cylinder, one can use it but will have to give up the climb and come down immediately from there. So that way, it's actually a rescue and evacuation support than an aid for the climb. We would start at midnight and the climb would take about 6 hours to the first point, which is the Stala point. And after a short break there, we will walk further for about an hour along the rim to the Uhuru peak. Saidi reminded me several times that for us, there is no time limit or deadline. We will take as long as it takes to reach our destination since we are going to walk pole pole. Along the way, we could have technical breaks for drinking water or a pee. At the Uhuru Peak, Saidi cautioned that we can't stay for too long if it's too cold. But if the weather is bright and sunny, we can be there for about half an hour or a little more. After our time at the Uhuru Peak, we will come back along the rim to Stella Point. As we come down, we are bound to feel better as we get more and more oxygen. And if it gets too hot, we can stop to remove some of the layers on us. After we return to Barafu, we will be served brunch and then we continue downwards to the lower camps. It could be the Millennium Camp or the Moika Camp depending on how much energy we still have.
Any question?
What time do we start tonight?
After another nap in the evening, I'm ready for the summit. Without doubt, the summit is the toughest. It's a climb all through. I mean, no flat or plain surface. The trail is rocky. It is extremely cold and windy. After about a couple of hours of climbing, one does feel a little drowsy. Your nose is dripping like a broken tap, and when you look ahead, you see headlamps of climbers who are almost at about 60-degree angle from where you are and very far away, reminding you that you still have a long way to go. Saidi taps me on the head and advises me not to look up. The whole exhaustion melts away at dawn as the sky turns crimson. The views of the Mavinzi Peak is surreal. I take about 7 hours to reach Stella Point, and drawing upon the last drops of energy, I manage to reach the roof of Africa, the Uhuru Peak. You do feel like being on the top of the world. You find climbers celebrating their success and congratulating each other. I take my time taking pictures that I will keep looking at for the rest of my life.
But trust me, it's been worth every step that I took, every effort that it was so tiring. It was quite tiring, but absolutely worth it. So happy to be here.
The views from here are breathtaking. Glaciers, crater, the Mavinzi Peak, Mount Meru, and much more. After spending about 30 minutes at the peak, we head back along the rim to Stella Point, from where we descend downwards. One remarkable aspect of the descent is that unlike other treks, it is much easier. The trail used to go down is different from the one that is used to go up, and is a gravel and sand heavy trail that allows you to descend very fast. I took almost 8 hours to climb up to the peak, but only a little under 3 hours to go down to the Barafu camp. Incidentally, this is the 5th zone of the Kilimanjaro mountains, the Arctic ice cap zone. What was heartwarming was that I found many of our team members waiting for us at a point almost an hour before the Barafu camp. Their joy at seeing me return after a successful summit only reflects their emotional quotient and good heart. After a hot lunch at the Barafu camp and a little rest, the team heads downwards on the Moika Gate route. There are 2 camps on the way. The Millennium Camp, that is about 2 to 2.5 hours away from the Barafu camp, and the Moika Gate, which is about 5 hours from the Barafu camp. Although the plan is to camp at the Moika Gate camp, bad weather and my own exhaustion make us change our plans, and we decide to stop at the Millennium Camp. One can't but notice the reappearance of vegetation as one descends. Along the way, I take my last look for this trip of Mount Kilimanjaro. On the way, I also see some manual ambulance carts to evacuate people from Barafu camp if required. On the last day, we start early on a 5-hour descent back to the Moika Gate. As we head towards the Moika camp, we re-enter the montane forest zone or rainforest zone. The stretch between the Millennium Camp and Moika Camp is quite rocky, and one needs to watch out for wet rocks. But the real challenge is the stretch between Moika Camp and Moika Gate. There is a large section of that trail that is all slush and extremely slippery. I did not slip or fall in all my journey till then, but couldn't avoid a fall here. One even saw porters slip and fall. I think an easy solution to this could be to put rails on both sides of this muddy trail for porters and climbers alike to hold on to while descending. Will prevent unnecessary injuries. While the Moika route is used only to go down, you come across porters headed up. They are actually carrying supplies to the Karanga or the Barafu camps for groups that need replenishment. The final hour is an easy walk on an unpaved but less slippery path to the Moika gate. As one reaches the gate, one feels a deep sense of satisfaction and accomplishment. It is now time to say goodbye to the team, but not before a few speeches, handing over of the certificate, the tipping ceremony, and the final goodbye picture. And my next destination? The washroom of my hotel for the best shower of my life.
Hope you liked the video. After my trek, I stayed on in Tanzania for a few more days to explore Gorongoro and Serengeti. I have a video on that as well. The link is in the caption. Do find some time to see those videos. Thanks for watching.
Unvines live their stories